5 kilometres from Melbourne's central business district, you'll find Nightingale Village, comprising neighbouring buildings with sustainable, community-centred design. 6 architects brought 6 different responses and 6 different styles of building, each under the same principles of reductionism and sustainability. Housing shortages, shrinking apartments, and rising prices have made urban living less attractive than ever. Shared housing concepts respond to these issues by trading personal space for common amenities while fostering vibrant communities. This is Frame Views, Communal Living.
So the overarching design concepts of Nightingale Village is about sharing as much as we possibly can. And so that goes right into the nitty-gritty details of the projects around sharing services, sharing the street, sharing communal bathhouses on the roof or guest houses on the ground floor.
There's always a lot of extra effort required to negotiate these collaborative projects. However, I think it's through these collaborations that it actually leads to much richer outcomes. And I think Nightingale Village is richer than the sum of its parts. This project also, because it was 6 distinctive sites all connected, but with also a road down the centre, there was an opportunity to really rationalise how these collaborations could come together and actually share building infrastructure, both to save space, cost and share risk across the projects.
Nightingale Village really shows the power of a number of different authors, a number of different architects coming together and different responses bringing diversity and a richness to the urban realm that isn't seen enough. So we were interested in how we can build at a village scale rather than individual buildings.
Instead of every apartment having its own washing machine and dryer, which takes up a couple of square metres, living rooms can be made larger and those communal facilities can be on the roof. And some of the residents say that the laundries are actually some of the most social spaces in the building. There are shared laundry facilities on the roofs with adjacent clothes drying spaces, productive gardens, shared outside gardens. So while everyone has their own private balcony, it means that everyone can share and contribute to larger green spaces. We've got a lot of open air circulation corridors, open air stairs, which encourage people to take the stairs rather than taking elevators. All of these things really help encourage interaction and encourage a sense of community. But ultimately, community is really built by the people that live there. We can only, as architects, I suppose, make a framework for that.
There is a real appetite out there in the open market for good quality, medium density apartment buildings. When we kind of began this process, we weren't really sure as to how people would respond to it, and it's been overwhelmingly positive. And so we want to really show through our projects what is possible when you take a certain approach to materiality and to reductionism and to, thinking about the broader impacts of the projects that you're delivering.
So that diversity of scale of apartment tends to attract a diversity of resident. And that kind of, I think, diversity, it's interesting seeing there's lots of young families, there's older people, retirees, first home buyers. And so that kind of diversity almost then becomes slightly representative as a community. Melbourne in particular and Australia has huge issues with suburban sprawl. Low-cost housing is built on the outer fringes of Melbourne, which has got poor amenity, very limited public transport. It's very isolating. We've got record levels of isolation and loneliness. Bringing residents and giving people opportunities to live in closer proximity, still with that privacy, but that ability to engage, I think is really necessary. I think it's more that, I suppose, because Australia, we've had the luxury of space for such a long time that we've built out in our cities because we haven't had to build up. Sustainability was a really key pillar of this project.
Importantly, there's no natural gas into the precinct, and we worked really hard on up-speccing the glazing and the walls and the things you can't necessarily see to ensure that each of these projects performs incredibly well thermally and acoustically, being next to a train line.
Incorporating as many kind of sustainable transport modes. So there's 450 bike parking spaces within the village, a car share facility, locating these developments next to train lines and bike paths. I would really like to see policy change where all new developments are forced to incorporate social housing within them. Nightingale Village was a great example where we voluntarily allocated 15% of 203 apartments as community housing apartments, which were then sold to community housing not-for-profits who then rent them to their tenants. As part of developing the 6 buildings divided by a road, we were able to negotiate with the local council to actually pedestrianise that road. What that does is frees up that public space, makes a bit more of a pocket park, and really encourages kind of communal use. And so I think that's kind of a key lesson of how buildings or how developments can actually work beyond their footprint of the building and how they sit within the context of a street.
Gated community, that is the foreign object which just lands and is really jarring. It's about actually weaving that in to what's already happening in this neighbourhood, and knowing that we need to build more homes and we need to do that in such a better way that works within what is already there.